So I would try to memorize like every single page of all of my textbooks for every single class. And as you can tell, it was fucking awful.
But at the same time, I'm like, come on. Really?
No,
come on.
I can see where they're coming from, but I hate them. And
I've just accepted it that I'm gonna burn myself out.
You know how construction workers don't have like how they have like the calloused hands and like you can like fucking poke them with a fork, they don't feel shit. Like I didn't feel anything. I've been roughing it out here. You have that like on your brain.
Hate that class. It's awful. It's the worst design class I could ever think of.
Open up for the choo-choo train. Come on.
Almost got recruited to a cult at my university.
An ally has been slain.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Full-INT Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about university and schools in general, talking about our experiences, things we wish we knew beforehand, and maybe some stories that me and Richard have to share with you. So, would you like to start, Richard?
Yeah, sure. So, because it was my idea for the podcast, my name is Richard Hutran, also known as Torchbearer, as you already know. And that lovely bastard who just introed us in is Mr. Brandon Booher.
They know.
Yeah, they know. At this point, they get it. But since it was, like I said before, my idea for this episode, something I really want to put out there is there's not a lot of like college and like EDU stuff that's not like uber preppy and like boring or just like the generic like, yeah, you just gotta study hard, work-life balance that shit. And this time, like, I got a fucking 4.0 GPA, a Lamborghini, my daddy bought me a fucking private jet, and I was like, that's garbage. No one's gonna use that shit. That's fake as fuck. Like, there's a bunch of, like, real useful shit that people don't know, or people get, like, uber spooked off about, and I was like, fuck it, we gotta do it. We gotta do it better.
True.
But,
I feel like we also took very similar but different paths, too.
Yeah.
Relatively.
Yeah. So the first thing I'll talk about for my uni experience is I touched on it a little bit during our intro and on the like Hello I Am videos, and then a couple of other times throughout previous episodes. But for those of you who don't know, I graduated from high school at the age of like 15, 16-ish, right? I went through an accelerated learning program approved by the state of Texas itself to test out like new up and coming students because they wanted to pad out the numbers for the education statistics. So what they did is they basically said if you can maintain like a perfect grade throughout like the majority of the school year, you're allowed to skip. And if you keep doing that, you can skip. So you can like win streak basically, but you can't drop. And so because I was able to win streak my way through middle school, they're like, hey, how do you feel about coming through high school? And I was like, yeah, sure. And instead of doing it like over time, because I was improving so fast and I was blitzing through like a lot of the materials, they was like, fuck it, dude, just like here's all the stuff, figure out what you can do with it. And at the end they made me take like the Texas State Initiative test, which is like the barrier of entry for like being good enough after high school or your GED or whatever, right? So I took that and I entered into community college before going into university. And the biggest thing I learned in community college is to respect like the difficulty of classes, so don't like power trip, but don't take yourself too seriously to where you feel like everything's gonna be like make it or break it, like live or die type of thing, because it's not that much harder than a lot of high school stuff. The only thing that's difficult is that structure being your responsibility instead of someone else's. But you don't want to power trip and go too far with your new freedom and like not study at all and then be surprised like when you get like a C or like some kind of grade that you don't want because you're not putting in the effort.
Yeah, very true. Very true. From my path, everyone on the server, everyone knows this, in general. But I don't think I ever mentioned it on the pod before. So I took AP classes, advanced placement classes throughout high school. And I was always in accelerated or honors classes. I think they at some point called it like accelerated honors or something stupid like that. When I was in like middle school, elementary school and stuff. And when I got to high school, the next level classes, right? So you had your honors classes. So you had like your regular classes, your honors classes, and your advanced placement classes. Honors were just more work and faster paced than normal classes, because in honors classes you went over more material in a shorter amount of time. AP classes were like that on steroids, and the reason that is because AP classes were actually college classes. You would take those classes to get college credits and whatnot. And I took a bunch of AP classes throughout high school because I wanted to get a head start into college, because at least for the school system set up here in Nevada, they don't really encourage you to skip grades. Like, I really wish like I could have taken that path like Richard did.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm happy that I had like a slower rate course, because I feel like it helped me kind of flesh out who I am as a person. I took a lot of that like extra high school time to like kind of overcome a lot of issues that I had with my personality and like other things. But talking about those AP classes, they were a lot of work. They were hard. If you were in high school, if you have the option to take AP classes, I would say go for it. But I would also say do more research. If you can, whatever university you're trying to apply to, see if you can get in contact with any of the students there and see if your credits will actually transfer over. Because the way AP classes work is you have to go over, you bust your booty going through AP classes. It's a ton of work, ton of material, shortened amount of time. And you have to take a test at the end of the year to qualify for how many credits you can get for college. So it's rated 1 to 5. And depending on the score you get is a recommendation for the university you're applying to give you credits. So like a 3 is like, we recommend you give credits. 4 is like, highly recommend you give credits. And 5 is like, give them credits, you know? And then like 2 is like, don't really recommend it. 1 is like, don't give them credits. So going into university, I expected to receive essentially like 2 years worth of credits, and I only got like a year and a half or like a year, something like around that range, just because not all of my AP classes could be converted to credits, just because of the degree I was going for. Some of the credits I took couldn't go to my specific degree, and things like that. Like the university just not accepting that because they didn't have a class that credit could go toward. Like my university, specifically University of Nevada, Las Vegas, was kind of a little bit more lenient with those credits, because if they can't go toward, let's say you took like an AP art class, if you don't need any art classes for your degree, they'll try to push it toward like elective credits for you. So they'll try to work with you a little bit, but it's something you really have to talk with your advisors about and anyone at university if you aren't there yet. Because for me, I wasted a lot of time, a lot of stress, a lot of work on some of those AP classes that I didn't really have to, looking back on it. But yeah, just like Richard said, in terms of like the workload in university, it's really on you. A lot of it, well, it's a half, right, between you and your professor. In my experience, it's not really the class that is more difficult. It's really the effort you want to put into the class and the professor on how they design the material, how they design their lesson plans and the layout. Because if you have a good professor, a hard class could be pretty easy. If you have a bad one, an easy class could be pretty hard. Yeah. That's how I feel. I agree with you, Richard, that a lot of it is like that.
I mean, touching on your point with the professor too, something that I've noticed is, for background, right? Booher and I, like, different paths, but like our GPAs are around the same. We're batting in the same like ballpark, right? What I've noticed with a lot of classes is the professor, not only do they make or break the class, but a lot of the way that you study and approach things comes from what your professor cares about. So you'll have like some professors who just want you to get the general like vibe of what they're talking about and like have fun with it, whereas some professors want you to get like the exact like details and dates. But it's really important to understand what your professor wants you to study and like be like, hey, I want to be a good student for your class. What do I do? Because the biggest trap that I saw a lot of people falling into is they would overstudy the fuck out of themselves, like myself included, because I entered in college pretty young, so I didn't know what was expected of me. So I would try to memorize like every single page of all of my textbooks for every single class. And as you can tell, it was fucking awful. That is not reasonable for any human being to do at all. Like I remembered like the exact like quotes of like historical nonsense, and I burnt myself out completely. You don't need to do that. So you can just walk up to your professors, because your professors, they're guys, right? They like doing their job because it takes a lot of work for them to get there. So if you just have a heart to heart with them as a human and go, hey, I'm interested in what you have to teach. Can you help me out here? Like, I want to do one in your class. What do I got to do? And some professors will be like, yeah, man, like just get the general vibe and be able to do this. Some of them will be like, do X, Y, and Z. And if you're not lucky, some professors will dono wall you, but at least like you made the effort. And it's important to have that habit. And like you can also like gauge like the way that you have to participate in class based on like what the homework gives you, right? So if you're not sure if you have to overstudy and you have to cram everything, and the test is like, dude, like, what was so bad about the Civil War? Like, who were the guys fighting? What were they beefing about? You probably don't need to remember like the exact dates and every single guy who enlisted. But if the test is like, I need you to tell me like how many buttons Abraham Lincoln had when he was assassinated. It's like, okay, well, fuck. So you got to adapt to what the
Yeah.
workload is and what's expected of you, and then work on it from there. Because if you try to be perfect all the time and you 100% it in every single one of your classes, you're either A, not gonna like do as well as you could because you only have so much mental APM. B, you're gonna like burn yourself out because you're gonna start going hard early, and as soon as you don't see the results you want, like you're not gonna know what to do with yourself because you're putting in all that work, but you're not getting the return, and that's gonna boom you, or some other combination of the two.
Yeah, I would say the same, because you got to remember that like professors have probably worked in the field you're going toward, right? I would hope, at least. Because let's say for me, I'm going into graphic design, so I'm taking graphic design classes. So a lot of my professors used to be graphic designers or artists, depending on the class. So yeah, depending like on what they liked with the job, they're more inclined to teach you about their experiences, right? So like a lot of my professors, there are specific things that they had to learn a lot through like brute force when they were coming up in the career. So they make it a big part of their class specifically, even though it might be like a small part of the actual class design. They make it a big part of how their lectures are and how they teach their class, just because it either interests them or in their experience it was really important. And yeah, like it's pretty general for most of my professors, most of my class. I would say yeah, it's really general. Just kind of get the gist of everything. If you can get that far, you're probably pretty good. It's only very specific classes where they want detail. Like one class I'm taking right now, well, I have to take like 4 of them. I've taken 1. I need to take like 3 more. Pain in the butt. It's Survey of Art History. Hate that class. It's awful. It's the worst design class I could ever think of. And you have to remember so many specific details about random stuff that doesn't even really matter that much. And it's just like, makes no sense. I hate that class.
It's funny that you mentioned Survey of Art History, because this is something the pod and like anyone who's going into uni has to know about. Is depending on states it's going to be different, but even within the same state, right? Your professor, it like makes or breaks the class so hard, because Booher is complaining about Survey of Art History being the most like cringe, boring shit. He has to number like useless classes. In my class, we read Wikipedia articles and we were vibing to like old school documentaries. You had like 1 presentation a week, and then you had a fucking A, B, C, D like matching for your fucking test and finals. And then our like finals was going to an art museum and fucking writing about what we thought was cool. Like that shit was free for me. But for him, it's like a major pain in the ass.
Well, those classes are like the Survey of Art History classes. They're just designed like that.
Yeah.
Like, because I've taken 2 actually. So I've taken 1. I finished 1. I took another one. I dropped out of that one. But they're like, the professors are okay for those classes. They're like mid. But it's like just the way the class is designed. It's like so strange. It's stereotypical testing type of class where you have to like remember details and whatnot, which is not fun. But in my experience, most of the professors I've had very cool, very chilled out. You know, do you like the project professors or the test professors more?
I think it depends, right? Because on instinct, I like having the most agency. So if the test is like well structured, right? Where like some professors, if they do this, they're saints. Don't expect it, but they'll make their test exactly like the study guides, and they'll like spoon feed it to you. Like, here you go, little shit, baby. Like, here's what's gonna be on the test. Open up for the choo-choo train. Come on. And like, as long as you like put in the effort to like do the shit, you're gonna get like a B, A-ish, like no diff, easy, right?
Yeah.
But some professors, like, I don't know what it is. Like, they just get off on like people fucking up so they could feel cool on the power trip, or they're like phoning it in, like not doing shit. So the tests are really like boring, or like there's just random shit they don't bring up, and like, what is this, man? Like, you never brought this up. Like the old school memes about like, you have 3 pencils, Bobby has an apple, what's the circumference of the sun? It's like, fuck
literally
you, dude.
Stuff on the test that was never in a never even mentioned in the class.
Yeah.
Just straight up did not get mentioned. It's on the test. Like, what? Huh?
Yeah, that shit's garbage.
I would say I mean, it's probably because I'm more of like an artsy person or whatever.
Yeah.
I definitely prefer like project professors more, just because I think they're more fun, but not group projects. Like, I'm okay-ish. Like, there's like, as group projects suck. I mean, I think that's just like kind of the general agreements between people. The group projects just generally suck because you always have like the one kid picking his nose, one kid doing all the work. I'm the one that does all the work, by the way.
Yeah, same here.
Just because you're like, dude, I want to do good. I don't want to be struggling. You know, my grade's already good. But I just think they're more fun. I feel like they're also. I feel like the stress you get from projects is healthier than like the stress you get from tests.
I push back on you on that one.
For me, I like it more just because the stress of completing a project is more, you know, you got a deadline, you got to do all this, right? But then you like, once it's done, you're good. You like kind of just chill out. Tests, you still have to take the test. So you can do all this prep, right? And then you still got to take the test and you got to wait for your results, which still have to, you do have to wait for your results on a project, but I feel like it's a lot less, you're like done at that point. You're like, oof, it's over.
Okay. I see where you're coming from, but I'd push back on it. Because I think for me personally, like a well-structured test is way like there's a lot less weight on it than a project.
I think it's easier.
They fucking tell you, right? You know what you're gonna be tested on. There's a range. And if a test is like well structured, like you read the chapter, you do your shit, like you memorize this, like this will just be a whole different section about like how you study, which is really important because not everyone's gonna study the same way. But basically, you study, you try your fucking best. That shit's in your brain, like you're using it. At least for me, like I'm playing around with it. Like if I'm studying like communication styles, like I'm joking around with it. Like I'm bullying the guys who like made it. I'm like talking mean shit, like just applying it, having fun. And I take the test, and it's like I put like after you study a certain amount, you cannot prep anymore. You're done. So like if you've genuinely tried your best, you cannot do anymore. So fuck it. Just like run it, and then let what happens happens. So for test, like I'm just like I'm done. It's over. I mean, and if I get a good score, it happens.
I don't know, but it's like I would prefer, like, I would say either way, I would just prefer projects. Is like I would prefer a well-structured, well-graded project over a well-structured, well-graded test, even though those are like piss easy. If you get like a well-structured test, that the professor like sets you up for, just because like the project could be more fun, but then also if it's single project, not group project.
Yeah, I mean, we throw group projects out. Okay, group projects are like the dirty, like shitty, greasy diner food that you have to like force yourself to eat when there's nothing else around. Okay, we're talking about the nice stuff, the well-structured tests and projects.
But I also
not that cringe.
Feel like on the low end projects for me are still better, because even like a poorly structured and graded project, I'm more okay with than tests, just because you still spend all the nights not getting sleep, doing all the work, but I feel like you're more likely to do well in a poor project than a poor test. Because if you're already set up for failure on the test, then you're kind of just screwed. That's how I feel. The biggest issue... Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I think you're set up for failure on the test if it's poorly structured, but at the same time, like, I think that there's limits. Because there's also, like, poorly structured projects also suck major ass. Because they'll have you going in a direction that's like not even relevant. You'll put in like you'll put in so many hours into like getting this one part right, and then they'll just fucking ignore it. Or like the rules will be unclear, or there'll be like little like hidden like shit if it's like poorly structured, right? Whereas like a test, like I think the difference comes down to tests are generally more finite and more structured, but you lose the individual agency, right?
You see,
you have to fill in the blanks. Projects, you just get to the end result, do it however the fuck you want.
I think like the thing is, right, like, because it's like tests, it's like the biggest advantage, but it's also like a downside with tests, because like one of the issues I have with projects, right, is like because it is more fluid, like it's more left to like opinion and judgment, like a lot of it's judgment based, right, where tests are just static, it's logic. You're right or you're wrong, essentially. That's like a written test or something like that, then you have like a little bit of leeway. But with tests, generally, you're right or you're wrong, right? Where projects have a little bit of leeway. So you can kind of like debate with the professor a little bit. You can be like, hey, when you said this, I thought it was like this. And, you know, professors kind of be like, all right, I'll give you a half credit. It's not completely right, but I can see like where you're coming from on that situation, right? Where tests, it's not really, you can't really do that. If you got it wrong,
you just lose, dude. 2 plus 2 is 3.
Even
actually,
sometimes, if you like, there's 2 answers on a test, right? Like, if there's like 2 likely, like 2 correct answers, professor could be like, well, I specifically mentioned in this lecture that this answer is more correct, so that's why I put it on the test to like kind of trick you. type deal. Well, even though both answers are right. So I feel like that's why tests are good, because it's like, if you know the stuff and if it's designed well, then you're just right. Where on a project, you can get dinged on stuff just because of the professor's judgment. But then I feel like it goes both ways. I would say the biggest thing I don't like about project is like, if you have this very specific type of professor where they don't like people getting A's in their class, you know what I'm talking about? Like they have to ding you on something. You can't get 100%. You have to get dinged on something. There's something I understand, right? As like a professor, like I can understand. I see why they're thinking like, well, no one's perfect, or like whatever, right? Like there's always something wrong. Or even, I don't know about your state, but here they do like for professors it's very lenient. It's more so on teachers, but they have like a whole curriculum, or they have a whole like area they have to stay in, right? Like if their students have too high of a GPA on average, they'll get dinged a little bit, and same if it's too low. So they're the way our system is set up, it makes teachers want to stay in that middle ground, so they're more incentivized to like ding people and stuff like that. Professors have more leniency. Like professors, it's kind of, since it's up to the university if they want to hire you or not, you know, it doesn't really matter as much. But I don't know, it's something about because like I could understand it why you want to like ding someone on everything, or like on like at least something if they're like, oh wow, that's great, but you know, this is a little off. But at the same time, I'm like, come on, really?
No,
like, come on.
I can see where they're coming from, but I hate them, and here's why, right? Okay, so you're as a teacher, right? On a fundamental level, what is your job, right? It is to teach someone the thing, right? It doesn't matter how hard it is. If you're the teacher, you have hands shaken with the other person. I will teach you this thing. So if I walk up to like a fucking 4-year-old, right? And I'm like, I will teach you math. 2 + 2 is 4 because the number 2, this is 2 things. And if you bring 2 more things, that's 4. That's not that hard to see, right? It doesn't matter like how like the kid is like doing, right? Like if the kid is trying to learn, it's my job to get it across to that kid, right? But if and now sometimes that kid can be uncooperative, right? They can like pick their nose, they can like run around, they can like not choose to listen to me, right? But at the end of the day, like I have chosen to teach this kid, right? So if I go around and I start teaching a bunch of kids, right? The only common denominator is me, right? So if I'm running around and let's say I teach like 10 kids, like 2 + 2 = 4, and like 8 of them don't get it, right? That's not their fault. They don't know any better. That's why I'm teaching them. It's my fault.
True.
And if the argument is 2 + 2 = 4 is so hard that it's impossible to teach, why the fuck are you teaching it? Because you had to learn it at some point. Someone had to teach you at some point. So how come you are so bad at your job that you cannot teach it to them? It's like a plumber coming over to your house and saying, yeah, I can fix that toilet. And going, actually, your toilet's really messed up. And plumbing is so hard that I'm just going to leave it like that. I can't do my job. You wouldn't get it. I'm out.
Actually,
give me
this
your paycheck
pipe turns like at a 90 the left way. I'm used to it being the right way. So,
yeah, exactly. Like my wrench doesn't fit in here, so I just can't. It's like, no, you fucking, it doesn't matter what the subject is. It can be 2 + 2 = 4. It can be math, science, history, English, reading, writing, whatever. It doesn't matter. When your teacher has been paid by the university and they have made it their job, right? They've put all of their hours into teaching you, and they go, no, you're too good at what I'm teaching you, and it makes me feel bad, so you get dinged off. I'm like, fuck off, dude. You don't deserve to be a teacher. You're out here fucking cashing checks. You're actually a paycheck thief because you don't understand your fundamental purpose is to take what little fucking knowledge is in your brain and put it into the shitter brain to improve whatever medium you're in. That's your fucking job. So do it.
I like it's also like a thing where like they do really good, right? It's like, hey, you did a good job, you taught them really well, and obviously this person put a lot of effort and a lot of work into their things. Like, kind of an asshole if you just take like a little bit off. Like, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with them getting 100%? What's wrong with that? Yeah. Is it really so bad?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and can't you see the amount of like time and effort someone put into something and be like, all right, respect. You know, you did all this, really good, really cool.
I mean, some fucking like I've seen and heard like horror stories of some like professors at like colleges and universities that just like don't fucking deserve their jobs. These guys are like paycheck thieves, just fucking phoning it in with like the most bullshit fucking like courses, like fucking ABC paint by numbers, like nonsense. Like they don't give a fuck, bro.
I've had a couple. Overall, I'd say I've had very good overall I'd say I've had good professors. Like if I was to average it out, but you know, I've had the schmucks. You know, I've had some very good professors too. I've had fantastic professors too, but I've also had the schmucks.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
always
they're
a
all
mixed
people.
bag with professors, honestly, whenever you go to uni, which is why I don't know if you
It's
use
tough.
this. Everyone I know uses this. You have to use Rate My Professor, in my opinion.
No, it's important.
Yeah,
It's
that is
actually
like
important.
literally like 70% of your class is getting the right professor who's not like a smarmy dickhead. Because you saw how hard I popped off and how much I hate professors who are bad at their job. That is like the best filter to get like the shitters out of your
Yeah.
way so you can learn the real shit. Because the professors who actually care make the material interesting because they're good at their fucking job. So they actually care about you and they want you to do well in their class. So what you do, the meta for college, university, right? You scout your professors as early as possible, right? Because most people don't know. Some people are lazy shitters. Some people like just phone it in, they don't care. But fine. But you can rise above. You can be better. You scout early. You talk to your advisor. You spawn camp them, right? And as
Okay.
soon as the good professors come up, frame one, you bust your ass in that class. You go, hey, I'm here. What's good? And then if the little je ne sais quoi, the little cherry on top, right? You sweat like a fucking tryhard, and you try and have fun with it. Front row, pop up, ask questions, answer questions, visit during their office hours. Because I swear to God, my GPA has risen by like 0.5, 0.6 just from spawn capping office hours. These professors, like who are good, they want to teach you, they want to help you. You just got to give them the angle. But what about you, Booher?
I would say I would rather take a class that I'm not interested in with a great professor than a class that I'm actually super interested in with a terrible professor.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. Professors make up so much of the class.
Mm.
Like, no, not even kidding. Like, if you have, because in university, right, you have to pick, like, you have options for a lot of your credits. Like, if you have, like, an elective credit or, like, a history credit, if you just need to make, like, a history credit, right, you have a bunch of history classes to pick from. Same with sciences, you know, sciences are like that. Math, not as, math and English are a bit, like, flippy floppy with it. But, like, you know, science classes are kind of relatively like that. Same with electives. Social studies courses, very much so. So I would say, let's say you're really interested in philosophy, right? Cool, great, good for you. Check out the philosophy professors. And now, if you also have the options to take a humanities course instead, you know, like an anthropology class, and maybe you're not as interested in anthropology as philosophy, you know, go check out the professors for anthropology too. Because if your professor for philosophy is like a 1 and the professor for anthropology is a 4, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'd go for the 4.
Yeah.
Even if you're not as interested in the class, just because you'll be suffering. Like, it's not fun. It's really, having a bad professor, it sucks.
Yeah. But something you can do in that analogy too, where you're interested in philosophy, but the professors are poopy, you can do this magical thing, right? It's called an audit. Okay? This is like the dark magic of university, okay? So trade offer, you give them your time, and you maybe do a little kiss ass to the professor, and you receive a full semester's worth of education without having to pay. It doesn't go into your GPA, right? So if you're like a dumb shitter, right, you don't get penalized. If you pop off, great, you just know it, but you don't get the padding for it. So what you can do is like on the first day, like that classes are starting, you can talk to the professor, and obviously this depends on like how good you are at like making your first impression. But usually, like if the classes have space, you can be like, hey, I'm really interested in your subject, Professor X, Y, and Z. I'm really interested because of A, B, C, D. I was wondering if you could let me audit your class. And what that does is you get to sit in, you get to hear all the lessons, you get to pretend to be a student. You're basically just playing Among Us at that point, right? You're like, I belong here. Like,
That's
don't boat
funny.
me off the airship, woo woo. And fucking, like, you get to do is you get to scout out, like, if that class is something you're interested in without sinking in, like, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars into something that you might not care about. Now, obviously, you have to balance that out against the workload that you have. But if you have some time to kill or you don't know what you want to do, you can always have that option, or you can talk to people, like make friends who are in the majors that you're curious about, and ask them, like, hey, like, how's this going? How do you feel about that, or whatever, like you're trying to make your mind up towards? Because even though the big like consensus from like society before you enter uni is you have to like know your shit constantly in order to pick your major, that shit's fake, bro. You got like a year or two to fuck around like basic common core classes. Like go make some friends, talk to some professors, like even find out like what books they're reading, like, and just like flip through and be like, is this interesting to you or not? And then eventually you'll like find some general direction from there. And if you can't, just do what you're good at, because university is not the end of the road, right? there's so many jobs that just require a generic bachelor's, and if your people skills are good enough, or you pad yourself out with work experience, like you got it, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, generally people just want you to be educated.
Yeah.
It's just an achievement.
Yeah.
Achievement unlocked.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I personally think that like university and college is kind of a joke, but
Yeah. It's like League. Like everyone, like in bronze, they look up. They're like, "Oh yeah, I'd love to be in gold. I'd love to be in silver." The silver players look up like, "Ah, bronze, you guys suck ass. I want to be in gold." And the chain keeps going up. The further up you go, the more you realize that nothing matters because you hit like fucking
No, it really
platinum
doesn't.
D4 and like it's fake.
If there's anything I've learned from going through school systems and just going through university and college and whatnot, and just from my own experiences and other people's experiences, if there's anything I've learned, and in my field and my just job experience, it doesn't really matter. I'm not saying to like drop out and not do it.
Yeah, don't like drop out of college and like don't like put in like the answer to like Abraham Lincoln's assassination is Among Us, right? Like obviously try, but
I don't know. Yeah, professors are just like the be all and end all of all classes, my opinion. For courses, professors.
Yeah, but another big part is I think studying, like the way that you study, because everyone hears the work-life balance buzzword, and that means a lot of different things to different people, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, of course. Like if I just knew the magic ratio to work as hard as I want to and still have fun, shit would be easy. The hard part is actually doing the thing and figuring it out, because not everyone's like built the same. Because you have your own personality, you have your own tendencies. Maybe you're neurodivergent. Maybe if you have something like ADHD, ADD, OCD, something like that, it makes it harder for you to focus. Or maybe like you're interested in certain things, or you study differently. Like I study better by like just like reading out the thing and like through repetition, and then like using it for fun, like bringing it up. Booher might study differently from me. It's like, how do you study, Booher?
Gotta wing it.
Yeah, so he kind of wings it, and it's just about finding that structure, because it's like play styles and like video games, right? Like you can win like in Mario, like in Mario Brothers or like Mario Kart, right? You can still get to the end goal however you want, but you have to get there in a way that you can understand and actually do. Because if you try and copy someone else, but you don't understand or what they're doing or like why they're doing it, or you don't have the like the parts that make it work, and you're just trying to copy the end results, it's going to be pretty bad for you. Which is why it's better for you to just try through trial and error and figure out something that generally works for you.
I would say, yeah, just identify how you learn. Like for me, like note taking is a big part for like classes and stuff, but like I need like a key event or something, right? Like something that like ties my memory to that like subject or like thing that we learned. So like in class, something might happen to where, you know, oh, I'll really remember this lesson now, you know, but like because we talked about this thing. That's why I like the cool professors, the cool teachers more, because like, yeah, if you talk about like something unrelated, obviously you're not like learning, but for me that like helps me remember the lecture more, if that makes any sense, because we talk about this thing which helps me, which ties me back. But that's also why like note taking is really important for me, because like I can jot down like key points. I don't like the like speed running like notes, just like write it down. But like even writing it down just helps. And like if I don't have the general concept enveloped in my brain by then, then I don't look back at my notes. Like if the teacher gives us like a study guide or something to where I like need to find very specific answers, I'll look back at my notes. But in general, like if I'm just trying to understand concepts or like anything like that, I don't look back at my notes. I will just try to conceptualize it in my brain. If I can't do that, then I'll watch like videos, like because there's a lot, you know, we live in the 21st century. We have videos and a lot of other resources online that you can look at. I'll do that, and if that doesn't work, then flashcards and brute force it. And if that doesn't work, give up.
I'm on a similar page to Booher, except I have an obsession with like the fantasy of like seeing into the future, like that's a Raven style, right? Like I've seen into the future. So what I do is every single time, like I try to take as good of a notes as I can in class, but my secret school hack that'll increase your GPA to 4.0 instantly is I just study sooner than everyone else. So like day one where like they're just like running you through the rules and like like the like free piss baby week. I just look at the syllabus and I'm like, okay, I like mark my things down in the calendar and I just start ahead.
I have
So
to do that. I would say I
yeah.
do mine in quarterlies. I do like quarterlies. So I'll be ahead for like a week or two, and then I'll fall behind, or not fall behind, but then I'll be even for like a week, and then I'll jump back ahead.
I do the same. I do that, but I run with the momentum. So like, let's say week one, like they're on like tutorial, and I'm playing level one, like if it's a video game.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I get to level one, like I'll already have studied it on my own. So when the professor goes over level one, like my eyes will glaze over the stuff I already know. And if they pop in new shit, that's what I write down. And then when I get to level two, and then after that, I'll be on level two, right? So I'll always be one ahead. And then eventually, like after I start getting into the rhythm of it, I'll like build an advantage. So like a 1 week buffer may become two, a 2 week buffer may become three, just because I'm already so familiar with the material in class, right? So like while the professor is talking about stuff I already know, I'll be looking ahead to lesson two, and so like participating in shit because I know this shit. And eventually that advantage stacks up until I hit the test, and then by the time I already have like that residual like leftover memory, so I just make a study guide, I run that shit back as hard as I can until I feel comfortable, and like through repetition, like through using it, and I'm done. Test is over. Build that advantage again. Run through the motions. Like maybe pop in during after hours. Say hello to my professor. Be like, hey professor, I don't know how this thing works. Can you explain it to me, please? Or can you check over my study guide, make sure everything's okay? And depending on the professor, like some will say no, some will say yeah. But if they check over my study guide and they say, yeah, this is flawless, I'm like, okay, cool, no diff. Just memorize the study guide, free A, easy clap.
I don't know. I run on like a burnout style because I like sleep. So I'll bust my ass for like a week or two, and then I'll like do nothing for a week, and then I cycle it.
I just work myself hard. I just do it earlier, but instead, because I'm more mentally frail than you are when it comes to like burnout and like tenacity. Because like from your
Well, it's
grinding
because I
days in
burn
Crown
out
Blue,
myself a lot.
yeah,
So I'm used to
like,
it.
it's like the mental version of having callus, right?
I've just accepted it that I'm gonna burn
You know how
myself out.
construction workers don't have like how they have like the calloused hands and like
Yeah.
you can like fucking poke them with a fork. They don't feel shit. Like I didn't feel anything. I've been roughing it out here. You have that like on your brain. That's from like grinding your fucking AP classes and fucking like playing God knows how many games at like top tier. It's like you're used to the burnout and you do it. But like we mentioned in episode 1 where it's like you build like peaks and you hop across, and if you miss, you just plummet. I like to build my little like staircase.
True.
It's
True.
slower. It's slower. It's more consistent for me.
It's episode 1 all over again.
Yeah, but I can't study like you can because I'll die. I tried it for a little bit in League and it was awful. But
yeah, I don't know.
And I don't think you'd want to study the way that I do because it's boring. It's tedious. But
I would rather. I think it's healthier.
Works.
I'd rather do that way. I think it's healthier.
Yeah, but it is what you want to do and what you actually do is like pretty different.
Yeah, and people are different. Just life in general.
Yeah, but speaking of life in general for like university stuff, anything you want to say on your end? Tips, tricks, experiences.
Almost got recruited to a cult at my university.
Wait, what the fuck? Real shit?
Yeah.
How am I just finding out about this? I've known you for like 7 years.
Well, I think I've like slightly mentioned it.
No, the fuck you haven't.
So at my university, there's this guy. I thought he was really cool. Well, I was like, okay, here's the thing, right? What was I doing? I was doing work, right? Because when I first started going to university, I wanted to like live that like university like lifestyle, you know, like have my bag, walk around campus, you know, pop out I bought like the iPad and everything, pop out my iPad, do work at like the student union and walk the class, you know. I wanted to live like the university lifestyle.
Yeah.
So our student union is like really big. It's like got a bunch of stuff going on. But I was like on the second story outside, like just working on stuff because I was like just trying to like get in the zone. I was like working on stuff. This guy like comes up to, I have my headset on. The guy comes like up to me, I see him like go by me once. I'm just like, oh, whatever, right? I'm doing my thing, and he comes back and he's like standing by me. So I notice. I'm like, hey, what's up? I'm like, oh, what's up, man? And he's like, hey, well, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm just you know, working on some class stuff. He's like, oh, that's really cool. I was like, he was impressed. And I was like, yeah, what I'm doing is impressive.
Yeah.
I'm over here at Student Union doing my work.
Hell yeah.
But it was like, if I remember right, it wasn't like exactly like class related. It was like also like I was doing like, because it's for an art class, I was doing like artsy stuff, whatever. So he thought it was really cool, and he's asked me about it, and he like legit interested. He's a really cool guy, by the way. But he was like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, do you believe in like the Father or like whatever? And I was like, yeah, well, okay, so cult might have been over exaggeration. Culty. Gave cultish vibes. But he's like, do you believe in like the Father and stuff? And I was like, no, not really, you know, like I just kind of like chill, you know, like I don't really believe in like the one powerful Lord or whatnot. And he was like, oh, okay. And I was like, are you? And he's like, yeah, I'm a big believer, you know, in God and like saving us all and whatnot. And I was like, all right, cool, you know, right on, you know, do you. I went to put my headset, I'm going to go like put my headset back on. He was like, okay, cool, end of conversation. And he's like, would you be interested in like joining our club? I was like, what do you mean? And it's like, you know, we have like this, you know, we'll get together by the union, like in the front of the union, like there's this like big square and whatnot. Like the union kind of overlooks, like the union's on like at the edge of the university. They've built it up a little bit now, so there's like stuff behind it, but like very little, because they want the union to be like at the end, because the union kind of like looks over everything in a way. So he was like, yeah, sometimes we'll get down there in the square, you know, we'll have little meetings, you know, we just kind of like chill and like hang out and stuff. And he like had a flyer and they like showed me, and I was like, I didn't want to be rude, and I was like, you know, yeah, like I didn't really have that many friends at the university at the time. I was like pretty new. And I was like, yeah, I'm interested in joining. He's like, oh, what year are you, by the way? And I was like, oh, I'm technically, I think I was a freshman at the time. I was like, oh, well, I'm a freshman, but you know, I'm like technically junior because I take AP classes, or not junior, but like sophomore, junior-ish, because my AP class. He was like, oh, that's really cool. So you work really hard and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I work pretty hard. And he was like, that's really cool. He's like, yeah, you can just come by and like chill and hang out. We have one like tomorrow if you're available during this time. And I was like, got a class during that time, you know, can't do it. You know, we keep talking, and he was like, oh, cool. Well, you know, if you give me your number, I can like give you my times or whatnot. I thought he was cool, so I gave him my number. Because I thought he was a cool dude. So I gave him my number, and he like kept texting me stuff like, yo, you know, we're meeting this time. You want to come? I'm like, no, I'm good, man. He's like, hey, check out our social media and stuff. And like, whenever I would see their social media stuff, I was like, this looks strangely like a cult. Like, it was the stuff they're like doing. And he was like, they just chill. Like, the way he described it, he was like, we just chill and, you know, hang out. So yeah, I thought it was pretty cool that he like was inviting me and everything, because, you know, I thought it was like being open to like, you know, oh, it doesn't matter what you believe in, you know, we're just trying to hang out, have a good time, come hang out. I think he was trying to convert me. I think that's why.
Yeah, probably, but that possibility's still there.
Really cool. And then he'll just randomly text me now I haven't blocked him or anything, just randomly text me, hey, how's it going, you know? I'm like, I just keep him there. The back of my mind, the thoughts.
So what made you think it was culty? That just sounds like a guy who's like trying to get you into his club, man.
I mean, like, that's what I thought at first, but like the more like the times they would meet, it was like relatively like evening times, you know, good sacrificial times when the sun's getting low. Like some of the pictures that they had on their Instagram, I don't remember what the Instagram was anymore, but like they're like doing some like, maybe they were just having a good time, you know, maybe it was shame on me for judging them, but they were like doing some dances and stuff. I'm like, yeah, it seems like a cult. Okay,
so the criteria is like late at night dancing. So nightclubs are just like the scariest cult of all.
Listen, okay, it was like it was a vibe, okay?
No, vibe. I trust you.
The vibe coming off the dude was pretty cool, but like, because there were a couple times I'd walk by and, you know, I'd see like every once in a while I'd see like something or whatever. But they also would like do meetings off campus. Like the majority of their meetings were like off campus.
Yeah.
And you know, like saw like the people there, and I was like, I gotta get some forward vibes. Same with you. Like, not to be judgy or anything.
Nah, I trust your instincts all the time, perma. If that's like, one thing you take away from the pod, always trust your instincts when you're meeting people. Always. Because if you trust your instincts and you miss an opportunity, at least you're safe. If you don't trust your instincts and then you betray them and you get fucked afterwards, that shit
True.
feels ultra awful.
Well,
Because then
we've
you're
talked
starting to
about
question
it.
whether or not your gut feeling is right or not. Fuck that.
Yeah, well,
Go with your gut.
we've talked about it before. I think on the podcast, like humans work off like instinct. Like you have all this experience in your brain just throughout living, that your brain knows when something's slightly off. Like I think we talked about it, like with a back alley or something like that. Like if you're walking down the street and you feel something's off, then you should like follow your hunch because there's a reason your brain is thinking that. I would say generally, get good reads off people. Like you also have to identify how good you are at reading people. Like I'm pretty confident on like how I read people, like off like first or second impressions. But like maybe if you realize that you might be a little racist or sexist, maybe don't follow your first instinct right off the bat. But if you feel like you're pretty open-minded and you feel like the people you like to
I
hang
don't think
with.
anyone chooses to be racist or sexist. Like aside from like the memes and like shitters, right? I don't think anyone's going in like, you know what I would like to do? I would just like to be the biggest piece of shit ever. Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah, probably not. I feel like it's like a
there's
raised thing. You're probably raised to be racist. Generally.
Yeah, like obviously those are the exceptions. And if you do like find yourself doing stuff that you don't agree with, like even with me, like I try to keep up like the biggest air of professionalism I can. Like I try my best, like actively to be like as kind and understanding as I can be. But I still have my moments where I'm like not the nicest person around. Like I'm not, like egging someone's house or anything. But like, I'll slip in a couple like barbs, like when I'm bantering, I go a bit too far, or like something people don't vibe with, and that's something you gotta figure out. But it's not like it's not quite an instincts thing. It's more like you gotta watch yourself and make sure that like you're the type of person that you would also want to be around when you're hanging out with people.
Yeah, you want to hang out with the crowd that you want to be like, because you bring each other up type deal. If you want to be more like intellectual or something, hang out with smart kids. If you want to be more cool, hang out with cool kids.
Yeah.
Like they might be ticks and like niches and stuff, like they're like specific crowds, but there's a reason it's like that because they all gravitate towards the same things that they like and they build each other up and they like spiral out of control like that, like an echo chamber
basically. I mean, clubs are kind of like that too. They give you like a nice entryway. Like if you don't have a lot of friends in uni, clubs are free love. Clubs, school events, like any any group, any way where you can get like a horde of people, because it's kind of like speed dating, honestly. Because like you're filtered in based on like the club or the event or whatever. So bare minimum, you have like one thing in common, right? Like if you're meeting someone and you're like a chess club or you're at like a football game, you're at minimum, you're from that university or someone who is, and you're interested in whatever the thing is happening. So you got two branching off points.
Yeah, at least you have something to go off of. It's not like you meet them, they say they hate video games and they hate the internet, and that like they think you're ugly.
Oh no, I'm being targeted.
I'm sorry.
That's fucked up.
Except the ugly part. That part wasn't true, but
that part wasn't true. So
the first two. I'm sorry. I had the angle. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I feel bad now.
Yeah. Basically, you want to make sure that you get to know the person before you go on your date. Like I did, where I'm on my first date with someone who I met like a couple of years ago. Like we lost touch, and then I started calling her up again. And then on our first or like second date, she goes, "Yeah, I really just like don't like video games. I think they're bad for people. Like America has a shooting problem, and America plays a lot of games. I'm just saying there might be a connection there. Think about like how happy people were back in the old days before the internet, and now people are like rioting and like killing themselves. Like it's terrible. I hate the internet." And I told Booher this, and of course he decides to rib me on it instant.
I give you the benefit, dude, because I feel like that's like just such an uncommon opinion. Like I feel like if you meet people on the street, I feel like majority of them do not hate the internet. Like I feel like that's
even
so
sound
unlikely.
Like a hippie either, dude. I didn't get the vibe.
I wouldn't even like consider that. Like if I meet someone, like I consider video games. Like if I meet someone, like oh, do you like video games? Because I play video games. I'm a gamer. Because that's like an easy thing to spin off of. Like video games, very easy to like spin off someone like as a general thing you like. But like the internet, that one's crazy. Like I meet someone, I expect them to.
Bro, I lost the RNG poll. I was like, you talk to enough people, like eventually you find someone. But like first date poll, I hate the internet. I hate video games. It's like, well, fuck. What What do you want me to do here?
I think it's just unlucky baby rage. Like it's just
yeah, exactly.
it's so like unlikely.
Yeah, but since we're on the topic of like talking to people and like icebreakers and shit, like just be yourself, man. Like it sounds
True.
so corny, but let me break it down for pod and for people watching. Okay, so in psychology, there's a concept called the uncanny valley, right? Where the closer to something is to looking human, without looking human, the creepier it is. That's why like those little like baby statues are so creepy. That's like people are afraid of clowns. That's why those like random like CGI like images of like fake humans look so spooky. It's why like when artists are starting out like and they're not comfortable with their anatomy, it's like they're not completely satisfied. It's because they know what it's supposed to look like, but there's that little bit that's missing. So even if you're 99% perfect, that 1% stares at you and it freaks you out, right? People just don't like that. So when you're trying to be someone that you're not, like first of all, right, there's going to be that gap because you're not that person. So there's going to be that uncanny valley that naturally like, creeps people off. Second off, if it's a hobby, if it's a skill, if it's a like a niche, people who are into that niche can spot you frame one. You cannot bullshit your way like through a niche.
Fast.
Like even if you think you are the smartest man alive, you can bullshit your way through anything and you are just the chosen one, right? Your prize at the end of the day is a relationship built on something that you are not. And you have to keep up that mental tax to raise it up every single time. And it's just not fucking worth it. Because you can get the same results by saying, hey, I think what you're doing is cool. I don't know about it. Or I know this part about it. Can you like, what do you think? Blah, 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 blah. And you just spin off from there. Because if you just be yourself, right, there's no uncanny valley because you're just you. And it'll be tough because sometimes people won't click with you. Sometimes you won't fit in with the right crowd. Or sometimes people that you want to hang out with maybe don't want to hang out with you. But if you're just like confident in yourself and like you're just like a nice human being, people will like you. People will come over. Like my mom gave me the same bit of advice since I was 8 years old. March to the beat of your own drum and your band will come. Like that's it. Just have a good time. Focus on like making sure that you are happy, taking care of yourself. Like if you're at an event, have fun. Like for yourself. Don't look like you're trying to have fun because that's where you get like the North Korean hostage smiles and the cameras are going, I'm so happy right now. Like no, like just have fun, dude. Like get out of your own head. Like don't try and look like a thing. Just try your best and see what happens.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
You'll find your own crowd. If you don't feel like you fit in, there's plenty of other people that you'll find, you know.
Yeah.
Don't lie to yourself. I wish like my I mean like it's pretty easy to like if you're like walking around university. I mean obviously it's like harder if you're online or whatever. But if you're walking around university, I feel like it's pretty easy to like just get to know people relatively. I feel like if someone's just chilling on campus, I feel like they're more. I feel like they kind of want to be approached. I don't know. To me, like you can tell, like read them, you know, like if they're like this, you know, in their laptop or whatever, they're probably, you know, crunching for the project or a test or something.
Back hunched, clanging fucking 10,000 APM.
Don't bother that guy. But the guy that's like sitting back, you know, just with his phone, like doing like this, you can go see what his deal is or her deal, whoever's deal, getting their business. Yo, what up?
Yeah.
Names.
Yo, what up?
Brando.
Reckon only here.
boom, what up? My name's Rennington. Yo, what it do?
Yeah.
And then like video games.
Yeah.
Now maybe don't approach them like that, but
yeah, just say hello.
Clubs I think are really good too. Joining clubs, maybe not
clubs
like one that wants to convert you, but clubs in general are probably pretty good to join.
I have a fun one. About clubs too. Now that you bring it up, okay. So you mentioned that yours was like a club that kind of gave up culty vibes. Mine was one member, okay. So when I was first moving into uni, I was kind of young, you know. I was like 17-ish, right? Like not that young, but still like pretty young. I was like moving in, I was like packing up. I said hello to one of my roommates, and there was this girl, right? We'll call her Abatha for now, right? Okay. So I'm saying hello to Abatha, and Abatha is there with a guy I'll call Terrence, right? So Abatha and Terrence are there. I'm like, hey, like I'm just moving in, like I'm just moving in. Like, can you tell me which one's the room? Because I don't know the key. Like, how are you guys like in the apartment? Blah 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 blah. Right? And like, oh yeah, we're having so much fun. And Abatha's like, hey, do you need help packing? Like Terrence and I will like can help you out or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, like they must know each other because she just like volunteered this man like out of nowhere. She's like wrapping her arms around her, like he's like or she's like wrapping her arms around him, like bringing him in and like all that type of stuff. And like they offered to help carry my stuff, and I was like, cool, whatever. Like maybe we can be friends, right? And as I'm like walking up the stairs ahead of her because I got my stuff, I'm like excited trying to get into my own room, and then Abatha is talking to like my sister who's like also helping me move because I'm like with the whole family, right? And she says, and I quote, according to my sister, I love to watch him go. I love younger men. And I was like, and my sister was like, what the fuck did you just say? And then she was like, that's my brother. You know that, right? And she was like, haha, just kidding. And my sister's like, okay, no. And then I'm packing. And then as we're packing in, like we go to the grocery store and she's like, oh yeah, I love Terrence. Terrence and I are best friends. Isn't that right? And Terrence looks like a deer caught in the headlights. He's like, yeah. Yeah. And I was like, oh, how long have you known each other? And she's like, oh, Terrence and I just met today, but we're best friends. Isn't that right, Terry? And I was like, what?
Dude, that's so weird.
And then I come back into my apartment. My family's gone at this point. My sister's a little sus. Like they're about to dip out. Like let me like experience my university life, right? And then on the phone, we hear Abatha in her room go, mom, you can't believe what just came in. There's this really cute young guy, just how I like them. And my sister pulls me aside and she's like, yo, this person is sus. Run. And I was like, they're fucking trolling, get me out of here. And she's like, it's not that bad. Like they're sus, but like be safe, right? I was like, okay, fine, whatever. So the apartment we're moving in, like it's a new apartment. So they gave us like a generic brownie mix, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, oh, I'm vegan. And Abatha goes, oh, I'm vegan, by the way. So let me do these. I have a really special recipe. I'll substitute all the eggs with vegetable oil. It'll be really good. It'll be all organic. And like I have a Switch, so we can play like Smash Bros or whatever, right? And I was like, okay. Like at this point, it's like me, Abatha, Terrence, and like two more roommates, right? Just hanging out, right?
Okay.
We're playing Smash Bros, like sitting on the couch. It's like one of these L-shaped couches, right? So I'm here, right? Abatha is like right next, like right here, like a little bit away. Terrence and like the other roommates are down here, and we play. Like I pick Bowser. I'm big bruiser. Fuck you. Like
I'm gonna kill myself and kill you.
Yeah, exactly. The fucking seppuku, kamikaze, all that shit, right? I picked, and I noticed every time I pick Bowser, she picks Peach. I was like, oh, have you played Peach before? She's like, no. Like, oh, okay. So like, I turn on my signature skin. Mine's like this red and black one, and she goes, ding, 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 red and black one. I'm like, okay. Maybe I'm just seeing things. We play the match. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna change blue skin, blue Peach. And as we're changing, as we're going through the match, like Abatha is scooting closer and closer to me, and I'm scooching away, but she's still following me throughout the couch until there's no couch anymore. So it goes from here, and she's like, I'm running away, and she's like inching after me as we're playing. I was like, no. And then Abatha goes, oh hey, Abatha's friend goes, hey, the brownies are done, right? And the brownies, they're like a goop. They're not a solid. You have to eat them with a spoon, right? They jiggle in the pan. And so
Jello,
Abatha,
she made Jello.
Jello brownies. Abatha, this person, this character, sticks her entire hand in the mix and goes, it's not done yet, and licks it off, staring at me and goes, but it does taste good. Does anyone want some? And then she scoops out like a spoon from like in the middle of the sink and uses it to serve people, and it like slops down on a plate. And like I see like the vegetable grease oozing off of it, like the fucking fighting aura in Dragon Ball. It was just like covered.
I mean, I want to feel bad for like this poor girl.
No, but it gets worse, right? At this point, here's something I forgot to tell you. I'm 17 at this point. Abatha knows I'm 17 because I talked about it. Abatha is 23. I'm 17. So Abatha does that. I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm good. I'm pretty full. Like I'm just gonna call it here, right? And as I'm like getting ready for the night, I hear like people coming in, like, oh cool, someone's throwing a party, right? Like yeah, whatever. Like I'm just getting settled in. At this point, I'm talking to like you guys on Discord, right? I was just like trying not to think about it, just like having a good time. So I come out and I like come out into the hallway. Abatha's door is like wide open, So my room is like down here, right? And the kitchen is like where this knuckle is. Abatha's room is like right here, right? So I come out into the kitchen and I see Abatha's door wide open. I'm like getting myself like a snacky or whatever because I just got groceries, right? And on Abatha's room, like there is 9 guys laying on top of each other in a human pyramid, while Abatha is watching and just sitting on a beanbag. And I was like,
Okay, but like,
no.
if you're watching anime, right? There's a lot of questionable scenes in that. It could have just been nothing. That could have just been nothing. I'll give benefit it out there.
Okay, so I thought so too. I was like, maybe there's very, very good friends, right? So I walk up, I see Terrence in the middle of this pile. My boy is down horrendous, right? Terrence is down. So like, you know how they have like the human pyramid, right?
Okay.
Terrence is like in the center. So on top of him are 3 more guys, and on top of those guys are 2 more guys, and on top of those guys is another guy.
Okay.
And I was like, hey, what do you guys do? Like, oh, we're just hanging out. I was like, oh, cool. How long have you guys been hanging out for? Like, oh, like a couple hours.
Oh, like it wasn't on TV or something? They were like actually doing that?
No, all of them were on a single bed, stacked up in a human pyramid.
Oh, they were just messing around.
9 people.
Yeah, they're just
Yeah,
messing
they were
around.
just messing around. That's normal, right? I was talking to them, right? And
Yeah, they're doing whatever. They're just messing around.
And Abatha's like, hey, you should come join us. Like, come on to the pyramid. Ha ha ha. And I was like, no. I was like, hey, you guys have a good. I was talking to one of the guys in the pyramid too, because he said hello. He like recognized like some of the stuff I was wearing. You're talking about anime stuff. And I was like, I want to talk to you. So in my head, I'm like, I like our conversation. You're in a human pyramid. This is kind of weird.
That would have been funny.
So I just kind of dipped, right? I go to my room. Next day, right? I'm like an early riser at this point. Like I am like a mega simp for like try-harding. Like I'm a fucking nerd. So I rise up and at it 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm showered. I'm like getting my breakfast. I open my door. I see Abatha sitting on a chair right in front of my door, eating a yogurt on her phone, just staring at me. Like, hi, Abatha. How are you? And she goes, yeah, I'm doing great. Blah, 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 blah. And she was like, I was like, cool. Like, I'm just getting ready for today. I'm just getting breakfast, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, yeah, I'm just getting ready for today too. My class starts like 4 hours from now. And I was like, cool. Well, mine starts in like an hour, so I got to dip. And she said, well, actually, I have to go too. And so like we come down, we go on to the bus, like from my apartment to the university because they have like a deal or whatever, right? And Abatha, like, I go down an aisle, Abatha goes down an aisle. I like move to sit, Abatha moves to sit. I'm like, okay. Abatha, I just sat down. And Abatha looks at me, she looks at the seat, looks at me again, like I'm not doing anything. And so she like sits next to me, scoots up, and I'm like, oh, like what are your classes? Like, what are you doing today? And she's like, oh, I'm in the science building, right? So the science building is like right here, right? My building is right here, opposite side of the campus, right? And the bus lands like where my elbow is. It's like right here, right? So she has to go up, I have to go here, right? So naturally, you would assume that we would split off, right? Because we have not talked about walking together, right? So I go off the bus, I'm like, hey, have a good day, blah, 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 like, see you around. I start walking, Abatha starts walking, and then she U-turns, and I notice, like, in my peripheral vision, she's walking behind me. I'm like, okay, maybe she has something to do, right? So I make a left turn. Abatha makes a left turn. I'm like, okay.
Catch it up to you.
I make a left turn. Abatha makes a left turn. I make a left turn. Abatha makes a left turn. I'm like, okay. You've walked around in a circle. You have not realized this at all. I make another turn. I'm like, huh, this is kind of sus. So I'm like, so I just keep walking. I keep walking. Right? I see her like maybe like 5-10 feet behind me. I'm walking to my class, right?
Mhm.
And then I go in. I into the building. I had to take an elevator up. I see Abatha in the middle of the door. Like I assume like thinking to herself like maybe I've taken it too far, right? No, Abatha runs up to me and goes, "Hey, I just wanted to say I really like you. I hope you have a good day." And she runs out.
Oh, that's kind of cute.
Yeah. It would be, right? Except I have not. I like barely talked to her. I'm like, yeah, sure. Maybe she's just socially awkward, right?
I think she just was like just hard crushing on you.
This happened again.
And then, well, yeah, I think she was just hard crushing on you, and she just is just bad at reading like social cues and your body language stuff. The biggest issue I have right now is that she's 23 and you're 17.
Yeah. Also, important note. I was like, Abatha. I was kind of weirded out, but I was like, maybe it is a crush. So I thought that too, right? So I started like talking to Abatha, one of Abatha's friends, like, oh yeah, Abatha used to be in this club. I talked to this club, right? Abatha used to be a part of like my school's like church club, right? I talked to the church. I'm like, hey, do you know Abatha? And she's like, Abatha. I was like, what do you mean, Abatha? She's like, dude, how do you know about Abatha? I was like, oh, Abatha's my roommate. And they go, that's tough, man.
Oh man.
I'm like, why? What happened? And they said, I can't get into it. All that you need to know is Abatha's not allowed to join any of our clubs or any of our affiliate clubs. She was just messed up, man.
I see.
And I was like, what? How do you get kicked out of a church? And then it gets weirder
Because she was trying to do the saucy.
The rumor is, right? I'm not gonna shame Abatha because people are different. Abatha gave off a lot of like sheltered kid energy. So like the third day that I'm with Abatha, she starts drinking at like 5 in the afternoon. She's still drinking 6 o'clock like in the morning. She's just drinking, screaming like, I'm drunk as fuck. I want a Sandy and I'm drinking. It's fucking. I was like, okay, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then later on, Abatha brings in a parrot, and then that parrot is just free to like run around my house or my apartment. I was like, cool. Have you ever owned a parrot before? No. I was like, okay,
She wanted a parrot.
cool, whatever. Fuck it. You're gonna do you, right? Parrot screams every single minute
Yeah,
at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I was like, I can't sleep. Because so the room was like this, right? Parrot, you naturally think the person who owns the parrot, Abatha, would move the parrot to her room, right? You know, her parrot, her pet, her room. Gosh, it's right outside my door. So I have to deal with the fucking parrot. And when I voice a complaint, Abatha and Simp Terrence goes, no, I don't think it's that bad. It wasn't that big of a deal. I was like, oh, really? What time did you go to sleep last night, Terrence? It's like, oh, I was out. I was like, so you didn't have to hear the parrot? Yeah, I didn't have to hear the parrot. So how do you know it's not that big of a deal? Because Abatha said so. I was like, okay, but have you heard the parrot? And he goes, well, I haven't heard it, so it didn't happen. I was like, well, I heard it happen. I can't sleep. And they're like, dude, that's just you, man. Like, maybe you just haven't had a parrot before. You just don't get it. I was like, fine, fuck it, whatever, right? Happens again. I record the parrot. I make a complaint. And she's like, nah, like, you know what, fine, I'll cover it. In the meantime, like, I was thinking about getting some ants. An ant farm. I was like, but you already have the parrot, though. Why do you want an ant farm? She's like, oh, it'd just be fun. It'd just be quirky. It'd just be whatever, right? Abatha gets an ant farm later that week.
Okay.
Day 1. Shows off her ant farm. Real happy. Real cool about it. Day 2. Hey, guys. Some of the ants in the ant farm got loose, and I don't know where they are. So
Fine.
just watch out your stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm complaining to my apartment. I complained to my apartment. Like, they organized a conference between me and Abatha, and she brings in bitch Terrence, and I'm like, okay, like, this is not cool. Like, you have literally brought ants into apartment on purpose. Like, it is not that unreasonable for me to be mad, right? Like, come on, dude. And then I complain, the apartment's like, move me out, and then finally, I'm free. And then after I'm free, I heard from like Terrence, right? Because I call him Sim Terrence because Terrence told me when we were playing pool together, because I wanted to hang out with him, that he was only hanging on Abatha because he wanted to do something. He wanted to like date her, right? And do like get a one-night stand going, right?
Okay.
So he told me afterwards, Abatha in our like 4-bedroom apartment got 3 other roommates to sublease, like without paying rent, and they bought a cat and they gave it a Jägermeister and a Red Bull just to see what would happen. And when it had diarrhea all over their apartment, it became the apartment's cat. And then she got a dog and another cat. And there's 7 people, a dog, a cat, a parrot, and her ant farm living in this apartment.
So
and
her
then
parents have money because she keeps buying all this stuff.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, before the part I didn't mention is like we made a group chat for the apartment to like make sure people don't get locked out, right? And she's like, so this is like way earlier, like before, like she's like talking to me. She walks up to me, she goes, and you can call me Mommy Bear. And I was like, oh no, get me out, I'm in danger. And she apparently kept that going. So now, or at that point, all of the roommates shared their iPhone GPS location with Abatha. permanently. And she made them all call her Mommy Bear. And I was like, they got him out. Fuck that.
Weird, dude.
Yeah, that was
That was a lot.
yeah. And that was
A
like
lot to
one
unpack.
roommate, like like my first like 3-4 months into uni. But
I feel like she's
yeah,
just a strange person. Not cool with the
Yeah.
cat thing though. The cat thing messed up. That parrot
yeah, give
probably
me a
wasn't
cat, a
really that
Jägermeister, and a
parrot.
fucking Red Bull.
Parrot probably wasn't taken care of. Same with the dog.
Yeah, and the
That
ant farm.
person, that individual probably should not be responsible for another life form.
Yeah, like maybe like I saw that she was hard crushing on me. She was just weird, dude. All the bones in my body told me no. When I saw the human pyramid of guys, I was like, no, nothing good can come of this. Nothing. And I just dipped.
Wonder what the conversation was like. I feel like that'd have been like playing truth or dare or something.
I don't know. Maybe I should have asked.
I feel like there had to be, there's steps, right? Because you had to get like 9 dudes to stack up on each other, right? And all 9 dudes have to be into it. If there's a guy that doesn't want to do it, you know,
Like you lose
or
the pyramid, right?
maybe you can get down to like the last 3 and like peer pressure them, the last 2 and peer pressure them, right?
Yeah.
But like you have to go through so many steps to like get to that point. I feel like there had to have been something else involved. Like they had to have been playing like truth or dare or something else.
I don't know, dude. Like I was talking to that one guy in the human pyramid for like an hour and no one moved. I was like, why are you stacked up in a
Maybe they're
pyramid?
practicing.
For what?
I don't know, something.
Basically, I don't even remember
That's
what I
just
said.
a lot. I don't know. That's a person that's just. I wouldn't be hanging around them.
Yeah, they were like an actual predator. And before anyone just tries to like ask me like, maybe you're just being too mean to Abatha. Maybe you could have done something. One from the things that she did. Fuck no. How the fuck do you get kicked out of a church, Brandon? How?
Being unsavable.
Yeah, exactly. She got kicked out of multiple churches. She has the pyramid thing. She's irresponsible with animals. She stalked me on my first day. And it's not as important. Someone's gonna ask this. No, I was not attracted to Abatha in any way. She was not attractive. I just was not into it on any level. I dipped out.
Well, clearly she had all these guys doing stuff for her, so she had to have something going on.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything because Abatha is also a human being. Maybe by some act of God she'll run across this. I don't want to be too rude, but she was a character, and I am glad to have had that story, but not stuck around for too long. Now, not all the roommates are gonna be like Abatha. Lots of roommates are just normal, cool people. Maybe a little bit messier than you would have liked, but
The thing is, right? You should pick your roommates if you can.
and if you can,
Dorming is different, but if you're going to live with people,
yeah,
you just gotta recognize that if you don't get the pick, it's gonna be a lot of issues. All I hear are issues about roommates if they're random. Like if you didn't know them beforehand. Oh well, that's not all I hear because some people are really cool and chill, right? And
I had some roommates I was cool with. They were like messier than I would have liked, but they invited me to some parties and stuff, and it was cool.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like general, like
Yeah,
if it's an option to room with a friend, obviously go that route if you can, or maybe not because maybe your friendship will be over.
true. Yeah, it's a weird step to go through because you have to make sure you actually like the person. But Abatha Saga aside, how have your experiences with the roommates been?
I haven't had any university roommates. I still live at my dad's house. I mean, I have 2 roommates here at my dad's, but I've always had roommates at my dad's house. We've always had a room that he's rented out to his friends because like his friends, not because he needs the money. It's more of like his friends need help, so he'll rent out that room and stuff. So I've always had roommates.
How many human pyramids have you seen?
Confidently say 0, probably, unless it like went to like a cheerleading thing.
How many ant farms have been loose in your humble abode?
Yeah, none.
Oh, okay.
I used to catch ants.
Yeah. Just be very careful while picking your roommates or what roommates you got, and don't be afraid to record shit when you're moving in. Take pictures of everything, dude. Still nickel and dime you over like the smallest, like pettiest shit. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
That's just apartment and people in general.
Yeah.
Both ways. Not great.
Yeah. People apartmenting, but speaking of UD stuff, something I want to touch on that I didn't quite get because I got lost in the Abatha Saga. I'm sorry. It's a fun story to tell. It wasn't that fun to live, but if there's something I can leave people with, please, dear God, do your FAFSA early. Get your student aid done. Get all your financial aid set up early because there's a finite amount of money. First come, first serve. You get way more stuff for your classes. And listen to me, Full-INT Podcast. Okay, listen to me, everyone watching the Full-INT Podcast. Okay, if you think there's even a remote chance that you qualify for a scholarship, fill out your general application as soon as possible. Okay, scholarships are so massively helpful, and they're not that hard because people don't like to do paperwork. Sometimes people don't even know where they are. Like me, dumb idiot, loser, didn't fill out a scholarship, even though I was drastically overqualified for some. I met people who did not as good as me in classes, not have as many extracurriculars, and they just got it because they were there by default. Booher has also had a scholarship that helped them out massively. If you can, get a fucking scholarship as soon as possible. Just try it. It's like 500 words, but that shit is thousands of dollars. That is the easiest, best return on investment for your time that you could possibly get that doesn't lead to a pyramid scheme or you lining up in a human pyramid just like Abatha had her boys do, okay? Please. Scholarships.
Yeah, very helpful. I have gotten 2 scholarships, and well, no, I've gotten more than that. I've gotten multiple ones that I've qualified for or whatnot, but yeah, apply for stuff. I would say those websites, like what's one of them, like Fast Web Scholarships or whatever. I feel like a lot of those scholarships haven't worked out for me, like those online ones that you like apply to en masse. I don't know, have those ever worked out for you? They've never worked out for me.
I haven't filled out my scholarship paperwork like I said before because I'm a bitch. Don't be like me. But the ones that I've heard of people working or like scholarships through my school's like website and like student portal, like
that's what I would say.
From
all my
societies.
Scholarships have come from my university, so I would say just go through university if you can.
Or
that's
honor
where all my
societies
stuff has come from.
Now, the important thing about honor societies is there are 2 kinds of honor societies. Giga Chad honor societies that are backed by your university because they have the name of your honor society, right? So I go to Sam Houston State University. So the honor societies that I'm a part of, it's called Sam Houston State University Honor Society, and it's like Elliott T. Bowers College, right? That's like they're connected. The school backs them. They are real. Loser, bitch honor society. National Honor Society, Leadership and Success. Honor Society of Young Entrepreneurs and Talents. Knowledge, Dedication, and Perseverance Honor Society. Those are fucking garbage. Because they don't do anything. They're not backed by anyone. Anyone can call themselves an honor society. There's no restrictions. Do not give those bitch losers your money, okay? Only join the honor societies that are recommended to you by your school, from your school, okay? If they say, we have a chapter at your school, that's not the same, okay? That's a random guy making an honor society and putting it in your school. That's garbage. Booher and I can make an honor society right now with like $2 and be like, yeah, this is a Full-INT Podcast honor society in yada yada university. That doesn't mean that even though we have a chapter, we are backed by your university, okay? Have higher standards for yourself. If it seems too good to be true, look into it. Also, please, for the love of God, talk to your school's financial aid resources, okay? Get in touch. Those guys are bored as fuck. I met one guy, I was down bad because of COVID. That guy told me he was playing Pokemon X and Y on his 3DS the entire day. And I was the only call he had that day, okay? He was phoning it in. He was like, yeah, I'll put you in priority for the fucking scholarship relief. Just please, help yourself. It's so important. No one likes to think about money from university, even if you are well off, even if you aren't. It's always nice to have that pressure. Don't be afraid to reach out and do your prep work ahead of time. It'll pay off infinite.
They're cool.
Yeah.
Having money helps.
Money.
Literally, all that money just goes into your pocket. It's money that you would have spent on university anyway, right? And if you're not the one paying for university, then hey, help out whoever's paying for university. Goes into their pocket, which might return to you.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you can make a deal with whoever's paying for university. Be like, hey, if I get the scholarship, can I have half the money?
Yeah.
If they don't, if they really are just like that well off, they don't care.
Yeah. But you got anything else you want to add for the university episode?
I'd say try your best. Don't sweat it too much, though. Like, honestly, you can kind of be pretty flexible. You know, you do what's best for you. Don't get peer pressured into taking classes you don't want to. Don't get peer pressured into staying in university if you really don't want to. If you don't think it's the best option for you, hey, it's not the best option for everyone. If you really like it, or if you really need it for your career, then hey, go over it, plan it out, create a plan, go about your path, try to follow your plan through.
Yeah.
Don't die.
Yeah. Plans change and people change too. And maybe the person you are now isn't the person you are when you made the plan. Maybe you discovered a new passion. Trade schools are a perfectly valid option because more people are getting obsessed with like uni and higher level education. Blue collar jobs starting to see a gap. Like plumbers and stuff have seen really massive growth. At least if you're US, you can always go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics because they have the official tax forms for everyone who works in an industry. So you can go there. You can see the income growth for certain industries. You can see what the government like recommends you have or like work through, and you can figure out like what kind of jobs you want to go for. Don't pressure yourself too much. Everything's comebackable, right? Like obviously, don't work yourself to the bone, but try your best because you gotta take care of the human element.
Yeah, don't sweat it. Want to change your major? Just do it. Because if maybe don't just do it. Think about it.
Think about it.
Think about it. And if you decide, I don't really like what I'm doing, then I would say, in my humble opinion, I would say don't commit to it. Because if you aren't enjoying it now, who's to say you'll enjoy it 20 years from now when it's your career? So, take your time with this stuff. Like, I know everyone, like, from speaking of personal experience, I know everyone's saying, like, go, do this, But, like, go out at your own pace. And, if you feel like you're doing something that's not making you happy, then, create a plan to change that. You are the most important person in your life, and you know yourself best. So,
yeah, I couldn't have said it any better. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that's been Booher and I on Full-INT. Hopefully, you've learned and gleaned some kind of experience from this or had some fun along the way. Please like, comment, subscribe. And for now, we're out. See you guys next time. Peace.
My hands steady, I feel ready, but my legs heavy, I don't get it. How come I haven't hit it already? Still working, I'm still learning, I'm still searching, finally earning something, finally turning something called a profit. If I hear you talking shit, don't get caught in it. I'll be popping off and hit your ass, dropping all your shit. Yeah, I promise this, I got promises, you ain't stopping this. Cross my shit, you'll be knocked unconscious, bitch. That's the consequence, I got this, I will not quit. Man, I'm on it, honest, I'm gonna launch quick, then I'm gone. It's just a matter of time before